Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We have an incredibly intense update for you regarding the shocking events unfolding in Genoa City and beyond this Thursday, April 23rd. Let us dive straight into the drama, the heartbreak, and the dangerous twists that are about to change everything for our favorite families. The crushing weight of genetic failure and familial expectation has completely shattered Holden Novak, leaving him adrift in a sea of emotional turmoil that he simply cannot navigate alone. Having recently discovered his true parentage and his undeniable biological connection to the legendary Malcolm Winters, Holden had harbored a desperate, secret hope that he could be the ultimate savior for the father he barely knows. The devastating medical revelation that he is not a suitable bone marrow match for Malcolm has plunged Holden into a profound depressive state, characterized by a suffocating guilt that is entirely unearned but deeply felt. In his darkest hour, feeling entirely alienated from the tight-knit Winters clan and utterly exhausted by the relentless, toxic manipulations of his mother, Dr. Stephanie Simmons, Holden actively seeks out a safe harbor. He finds that unexpected sanctuary in the calm, composed presence of Claire Newman. Claire, who has navigated her own labyrinth in family traumas and deeply complicated legacy, possesses a unique empathy that Holden desperately requires. As he approaches Claire, the sheer exhaustion radiating from his posture is palpable, his usual defensive walls crumbling under the immense pressure of his current reality. Claire Newman, recognizing the profound distress etched into Holden's features, graciously offers him a listening ear and a quiet space away from the suffocating chaos of the hospital quarters and the relentless Newman corporate warfare. Their interaction begins tentatively, a delicate dance of shared vulnerabilities where Holden finally allows himself to vocalize the agonizing pain of his inadequacy. He confesses the deep-seated fear that the Winters family will reject him entirely now that his biological utility has been tragically disproven. Claire, drawing upon her own experiences of feeling like an outsider within a powerful dynasty, offers profound words of validation and comfort. She gently reminds him that family bonds are forged in love and shared history, not merely in the microscopic compatibility of bone marrow. For a brief, beautiful moment, Holden experiences a genuine sense of relief, a temporary reprieve from the suffocating anxiety that has defined his existence since arriving in Genoa City. The atmosphere between them softens, evolving into a space of genuine mutual understanding and platonic intimacy that highlights the very best of both their characters. However, this fragile moment of peace is violently shattered by the sudden, entirely unwelcome arrival of Dr. Stephanie Simmons. Stephanie does not merely enter the room, she invades it, her presence carrying the disruptive force of a hurricane. Driven by a relentless, deeply misguided maternal instinct and a pathological need to orchestrate every facet of her son's existence, Stephanie immediately assesses the situation with predatory calculation. She sees Holden, vulnerable and seeking comfort, and more importantly, she sees Claire Newman. In Stephanie's deeply transactional view of the world, Claire represents the ultimate prize of direct connection to the unparalleled power, prestige, and financial security of the Newman Empire. Stephanie's eyes gleam with a toxic mix of triumph and calculation as she seamlessly inserts herself into the private conversation, completely disregarding the intimate boundaries that Holden and Claire had just established. The situation rapidly deteriorates from mildly intrusive to excruciatingly awkward as Stephanie launches into a highly aggressive, deeply uncomfortable campaign of matchmaking. She showers Claire with effusive, over-the-top praise, her compliments dripping with a cloying sweetness that fails to mask her underlying agenda. Holden tenses immediately, his brief moment of comfort instantly replaced by a familiar, suffocating mortification. He knows exactly what his mother is doing, and the sheer transparency of her social climbing fills him with a profound sense of disgust. But Stephanie, entirely oblivious to the silent pleas radiating from her son, decides to escalate her manipulative tactics to an entirely unprecedented level of cruelty and disrespect. Looking directly at Claire, with a wide, artificial smile plastered across her face, Stephanie loudly and explicitly declares that she likes Claire 1,000 times more than she ever liked Audra Charles. The sheer audacity of the statement hangs in the air like a toxic cloud, instantly freezing the atmosphere in the room. Claire, entirely unprepared for such a direct, vicious comparison, is visibly taken aback, her natural grace struggling to mask her profound discomfort at being weaponized against another woman. Holden is absolutely paralyzed by a mixture of sheer horror and boiling rage. Audra Charles, despite the immense complexities and undeniable turbulence of their shared history, remains a significant figure in Holden's life, a woman with whom he shares a deep, undeniable connection. For his mother to so callously dismiss Audra, to use her name as a crude stepping stone to elevate Claire in a desperate bid for Newman proximity, is a betrayal that cuts Holden to his very core. This singular, catastrophic statement from Stephanie Simmons is destined to send massive shockwaves through Genoa City. When Audra Charles inevitably learns of this blatant, public disrespect, her reaction will be nothing short of explosive. Audra is a woman of immense pride, staggering ambition, and ruthless capability. She does not tolerate being diminished, especially by a woman she already views with deep suspicion and animosity. Stephanie has unwittingly ignited a bitter, vicious war with one of the most dangerous corporate strategists in town. Meanwhile, Holden is left to navigate the agonizing fallout of his mother's complete lack of boundaries, his relationship with Claire now tainted by Stephanie's toxic interference, and his connection to Audra fundamentally threatened by his mother's venomous tongue. While the emotional warfare escalates in Genoa City, a literal, high-speed nightmare is unfolding in the desolate, sun-baked expanses of Las Vegas. The steering wheel of a stolen vehicle groans under the white-knuckled, desperate grip of Nick Newman, his hands slick with a cold, chemical sweat that speaks volumes of the powerful narcotics currently hijacking his central nervous system. Nick is entirely out of control, his mind and body operating on a dangerous, artificial frequency dictated by the massive stash of pills he recently consumed. Having miraculously survived the suffocating darkness and physical torment of the subterranean storage room where the psychopathic Matt Clark had previously confined him, Nick did not emerge unscathed. In a moment of desperate vulnerability and sheer survival instinct, Nick had scavenged several bags of potent medication from that very storage room. A fatal decision that has now transformed him into a manic, highly volatile force of nature. Beside him, Adam Newman sits rigidly in the passenger seat, his usual demeanor of cold, calculating control entirely obliterated by visceral, suffocating terror. Adam, who had initially traveled to Las Vegas with the arrogant belief that he could effortlessly manipulate the situation and rescue his brother, now finds himself an unwilling hostage to Nick's drug-fueled mania. The irony is not lost on Adam. The man who has spent a lifetime orchestrating complex, dangerous schemes is now entirely powerless, his life hanging in the balance as his heavily intoxicated brother pushes the vehicle dangerously past its mechanical limits. Adam watches with wide, panicked eyes as Nick's mood swings violently between terrifying, hyper-focused rage and disjointed, frantic paranoia. Adam desperately attempts to reason with Nick, his voice tight with genuine fear, pleading with his brother to pull over, to surrender the keys, to recognize the catastrophic danger they are currently in. But Nick Newman is entirely deaf to reason. The pills coursing through his bloodstream have silenced the rational, protective patriarch and awakened a primal, unyielding predator. Nick's vision is blurred at the edges, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird, but his mind is singularly, terrifyingly focused on one objective: Matt Clark. The name alone is a poison in Nick's mind, a catalyst for a decades-old rage that has now been ignited by chemical enhancement. Nick knows, with a horrifying certainty, that Matt Clark is not merely content with torturing the Newman brothers. Matt is actively, maliciously luring Sharon Newman and their son Noah directly into his sadistic trap. The very thought of Sharon, the woman Nick has loved, protected, and fought for throughout his entire adult life, walking blindly into the clutches of the monster who previously subjected her to unimaginable abuse, is enough to push Nick entirely over the edge of sanity. The speedometer climbs steadily higher as Nick slams his foot onto the accelerator, the engine screaming in protest as they tear down the desert highway. Every passing second is an agonizing eternity for Nick, his drug-addled brain conjuring horrific, vivid images of what Matt Clark might do to Sharon and Noah if he reaches them first. The historical context of Matt's crimes, the psychological terror, the physical violence, the years of trauma that Sharon had to painstakingly overcome fuels Nick's reckless driving. He is no longer just a man trying to survive. He is an avenging angel fueled by narcotics and profound, unconditional love. Adam, gripping the dashboard until his knuckles turn stark white, realizes with a sinking, terrifying clarity that Nick is fully prepared to die today if it means taking Matt Clark down with him. The dynamic between the Newman brothers has fundamentally shifted. The rivalry is gone, replaced by a shared, desperate struggle for survival as Nick gambles both their lives on a high-speed collision course with their darkest historical demon. As the Nevada desert blurs past the windows of their speeding vehicle, Nick's erratic behavior only intensifies. He mutters frantically to himself, his words a disjointed stream of threats directed at Matt and desperate prayers for Sharon's safety. The pills are providing a false, dangerous sense of invincibility, masking the profound physical injuries Nick sustained during his captivity. Adam recognizes the signs of an impending, catastrophic crash, both vehicular and biological. He knows that when the drugs finally wear off, the physical and psychological crash will be devastating, potentially lethal. But for now, Adam must focus entirely on surviving the next 5 minutes, desperately trying to anticipate Nick's erratic staring and hoping against hope that they locate Matt Clark before Nick's chemically altered state leads them all to a fiery, tragic demise. The stakes have never been higher for the Newman family as the sins of the past and the desperate actions of the present converge in a deadly, high-speed pursuit. Thousands of miles away, back in the sterile, emotionally suffocating environment of the Genoa City Memorial Hospital, a different kind of tragedy is silently unfolding. Lily Winters stands in the center of a quiet corridor, her posture entirely defeated, her usually vibrant spirit crushed under the unbearable weight of impending loss. She is currently engaged in a deeply agonizing conversation with Dr. Stephanie Simmons, the medical professional tasked with managing the catastrophic health crisis of Lily's biological father, Malcolm Winters. Malcolm is currently battling severe aplastic anemia, a terrifying condition wherein his bone marrow has completely ceased producing the necessary new blood cells, leaving his body entirely defenseless and his life hanging by the thinnest of threads. The clinical, detached manner in which Stephanie delivers the medical updates only serves to amplify Lily's profound, visceral despair. The conversation centers around the absolute, heartbreaking failure of their biological search for a bone marrow donor. Lily, her voice trembling with unshed tears, listens as Stephanie confirms the devastating finality of the recent test results. Lily herself had been ruled out almost immediately, a biological reality that had already caused her immense psychological pain. But the true, devastating blow came with the subsequent testing of the extended family. Stephanie coldly reiterates that Holden Novak, despite his direct biological link to Malcolm, is not a genetic match. Furthermore, the desperate hope that Lily had placed in her own children, the twins Charlie and Maddie, has also been entirely extinguished. The genetic lottery has failed the Winters family on every conceivable front. Lily is entirely bereft of options, her mind spiraling into a dark, terrifying abyss as she contemplates the very real, rapidly approaching possibility of burying the man who gave her life. As Lily finally breaks down, her quiet, agonizing sobs echoing softly against the harsh, fluorescent-lit walls of the hospital, she is completely unaware that she is not alone. Standing just out of sight, concealed within the shadows of an adjacent alcove, is Kane Ashby. Kane had arrived at the hospital seeking information, driven by a lingering, undeniable connection to the Winters family and an unspoken, enduring love for the woman who was once the absolute center of his universe. He stands frozen, his breath catching in his throat as he inadvertently eavesdrops on the most devastating conversation of Lily's life. Every tear that falls from Lily's eyes feels like a physical blow to Kane's chest. He hears the absolute despair in her voice, the terrifying realization that she is completely out of time and out of hope. In the shadows, Kane undergoes a profound, silent transformation. The history between Kane and Lily is a sprawling, complicated tapestry woven with incredible passion, devastating lies, profound forgiveness, and ultimate heartbreak. Despite the numerous betrayals and the eventual dissolution of their marriage, Kane has never truly stopped loving Lily, nor has he ever lost his deep, abiding respect for the Winters family legacy. He remembers the late, great Neil Winters, the man who had reluctantly accepted him, challenged him, and ultimately shaped him into a better man. He thinks of Malcolm, the vibrant, passionate photographer whose life is now slowly fading away in a sterile hospital bed. Most importantly, Kane thinks of his children, Charlie and Maddie, and the devastating grief they will suffer if they lose their grandfather. The sheer weight of this collective familial pain settles heavily onto Kane's shoulders, igniting a fierce, unyielding determination within his soul. Kane Ashby refuses to stand idly by and watch the woman he loves be consumed by grief. As he silently retreats from the hospital corridor, careful not to alert Lily to his presence, his mind is already racing with a massive, highly coordinated plan of action. Kane is a man of significant means, possessing substantial financial wealth and a sprawling, global network of high-powered connections forged during his tenure in the corporate world. He immediately resolves to weaponize every single resource at his disposal to save Malcolm Winters. He plans to launch a massive, independently funded global search for a matching bone marrow donor, bypassing the slow, bureaucratic channels of the standard medical registries. He is prepared to spend every last dime he possesses, to call in every favor he is owed, and to move heaven and earth to find the genetic needle in the haystack that can pull Malcolm back from the brink of death. But Kane's profound, heroic resolve does not end with his financial contributions. As he begins making the necessary phone calls to mobilize his network, a quiet, powerful realization dawns on him. The biological family has failed, the genetic links have proven insufficient, but the human body is a complex, unpredictable miracle. Kane makes a silent, deeply personal vow. He will officially volunteer to be tested himself. The sheer, dramatic irony of the situation is staggering. The ex-husband, the man who was once viewed as an outsider, the man who caused Lily so much pain in the past, is now stepping up to offer a piece of his own body to save her father. Kane knows the mathematical odds of an unrelated donor matching are incredibly slim, but he is driven by a powerful, almost spiritual conviction. He hopes, with every fiber of his being, that this profound act of sacrifice will not only save Malcolm's life, but also serve as a monumental gesture of redemption. A way to finally heal the deep wounds he inflicted upon Lily and prove his enduring, unconditional love for the Winters family. As Thursday approaches, the residents of Genoa City and the captives in Las Vegas are hurtling toward their respective destinies. Holden Novak must navigate the toxic fallout of his mother's manipulative warfare, his relationships with Claire and Audrey hanging precariously in the balance. Nick Newman, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of narcotics and historical trauma, is driving himself and his brother Adam toward a violent, potentially deadly confrontation with the psychopathic Matt Clark, desperate to save Sharon and Noah from a fate worse than death. And in the quiet, desperate halls of the hospital, Kane Ashby is preparing to step out of the shadows and orchestrate a massive, miraculous rescue effort, offering his wealth, his connections, and potentially his very own bone marrow to save Malcolm Winters and mend the shattered heart of Lily Winters. The stakes are unimaginably high, the emotions are raw and volatile, and the consequences of these impending actions will undoubtedly resonate through the lives of these families for generations to come.